All right, guys, thanks for tuning in to Ask Anthony. So obviously I've had a few questions with regards to stretching coming through from some of the guys and my subscribers. So I'm just going to answer some questions about stretching and how it all works. So rule number one with stretching, you've got to make sure it's purposeful. So a lot of people think that, they come in every day and they like stretch their hamstrings, like they neglect their quads. Or the whole idea of stretching is what it does. You're trying to basically create balance within your body. So you're trying to have all of your musculature kind of proportionate and even. A lot of people who come in, they could overstretch areas and don't realise that actually by overstretching a muscle, it can upset kind of the joint. It can put it into an environment where you could injure yourself. So there's things you need to consider before you just go out there and keep stretching. Me, for one, I was an advocate. I had really, really bad shoulder problems. So all I used to do was stretch. So I used to stretch my pecs because I had quite bad FHP, round shoulders, forward head posture, etc. But one thing I never really thought about was how I actually stabilised the muscles and fired them. If you are doing a lot of stretching, the most important thing to do would be really like a stretch test. If you want to speak to me directly, I can show you how to do a stretch test. But basically what you want to do is you want to stretch out from head down to toe, your traps and your scalenes and your sternocleidomastoid, and lots of different muscles that work from the neck all the way down. And what you do is you have an emphasis and focusing on the side of the muscle that's the tightest. So for instance, if I've got a tight right trap, I would stretch that more thoroughly than my left side. I still stretch everything out, but the idea is any tight areas you find throughout your body, you want to create a program where basically you go from head down to toe, you go, okay, my right trap's tight, my left psoas or my hip flexor's tight, and what you start doing is you start working out which areas in particular are tight, and you start addressing them and spending more time stretching those areas pre and post workout. Stretching is something that should never be neglected, but you need to make sure you do it properly. There's no point in folks, if you can do a hurdle split to the left, and because you can always do it, you're sort of like favouritising that and always doing that, but never really doing that much on your right side. It's common sense that you're going to create muscle imbalance and instability. Hamstrings connect through obviously to the pelvis. The hamstrings are part of the extension chain, which obviously is formed from the lower back, the glutes, the hams. If you have anything that isn't sort of in proportion, it can cause, it just leads you, it puts you in a situation where you can get injured. So that's sort of rule number one, so stretching. What they say about stretching, ideally, is when you are working out, dynamic stretching is obviously stretching through movement. What that will help you do, that will help you fire your muscles, basically get them fired up and ready to work out. So even like pre-exercise, for instance, if I was doing a chest press, I would use a Swiss ball, but I would, for instance, when I'm doing my Swiss ball stretch, I wouldn't just hold it. I'd gently move through that motion, trying to fire the elasticity of the muscle, trying to waken it up. So when I go out there and actually perform my exercise, I'm performing at my best. I tend to, obviously, at the end of my workouts, I should do it more often like we all should, but at least 2 to 3 times a week, I really am addressing any muscular imbalances I have before they get really bad and have to go see like a physio or a sports massage therapist more regularly. I always see one anyway, because it's important to get your body flushed out. But you can do a lot of this prehab or, looking after yourself before you get injured just by simply stretching. So rule number one for purposeful stretching is stretch the muscles that are tight and spend more time focusing on them than just doing generic stretches. You want to make sure your body's in balance. Rule number two, pre-workout, you want to try to focus on doing dynamic stretching. It's important because it creates, it basically fires your muscle up, so it's going to help you perform and get the most out of your workout. If you're there lifting weights, you want to be able to obviously get the most out of that and get the best gains you can. You're not going to be able to do that if you're not stimulating and firing your muscles properly, which will be in conjunction with dynamic stretching and proper warming up, even if it's warm-up sets, obviously with the weights, which we all typically do. Obviously, static stretching, that kind of plays in place with the purposeful stretching I was talking about before. At the end of a workout, make sure you do spend time to stretch out your muscles. And also, the most important thing is cooling your body down, reducing your body's temperature back down to normal. On the subject of kind of looking after your muscles, another thing I would recommend is post-workout to try and reduce DOMS, taking on branched-chain amino acids, anything that's high and prevalent in leucine. Leucine being the main sort of BCAAs you want to help you basically recover. Have your diet nice and clean. And the final thing that's obviously quite important would be, like for instance, mixing with, if you could have like a cold bath, so basically laying down in a cold bath, that will help your body basically what it would do is if you put a muscle that you've trained into like cold water, so if you, for instance, train legs, you get into a cold bath, hip level, what that would do is the cold water make the blood will rush away from that area, and then when you come out and you warm up, the blood will rush back with a new fresh blood supply that will basically help the lactic acid be diffused from the muscle, and it will help your recovery process. So yeah, I hope that helps you out, and if you have any questions about stretching, then obviously ask me. Anything else, fire away, because I'm your man. Thank you very much.